So, hello everyone. Good evening and welcome for the conversation of communities episode 3. This time we have Robin Vaya. So, welcome Robin Vaya. So,
Hey,
Robin
Zilva.
Singh is basically from Delhi, and right now he is one of the co-founders of Peepal Farm. I think most of you are aware about it and know about this. So this call would be an interactive and conversation call with him. So uh, we have asked some questions also. Like we've asked you guys to send us some questions also. So we have the questions also with us, and we'll be asking in between. But to start with, I'd like to share something about People Farm. So People Farm is
Guys, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Before
yeah.
you, a lot of people are saying, your volume's too low. It's hard to hear you.
Okay. Yeah, then by the time I'll figure out it, I invite you around where to just start with few introduction about People Farm from your perspective, and then I'll come and join you.
Okay, so
Yeah.
okay, and you want to keep this in English, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so yeah, okay, cool. Hi everyone. So I'm one of the co-founders of People Farm. People Farm, we are in Himachal Pradesh near Dharamshala. We are an animal rescue, and we also do storytelling because in at some point while doing animal rescues we realized that it's not enough to just help one animal at a time. Like how many animals can you help that way after all? And a lasting change. Can everybody hear me? Can somebody confirm before I
Yeah.
continue?
This is audible for me.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, at some point, while doing animal rescues, we realized that we can't help a whole lot of animals one by one, and a lasting change can only be brought if we can change how people think about animals. So that's why we started doing storytelling, and that's what People Farm does. We do animal rescues, we do storytelling, and we also make and sell products to sustain the project. And this whole story started, like, Silva, you want me to go into like how I started, and then people will ask questions?
Yeah. So basically, my invitation is for you if you can share about how was your initial, like even before People Farm, if you'd like to say, like maybe that story also a little bit about how that misspelled mail that you've sent to Blink, and then from there, how your perspective got changed throughout this journey.
Okay, so I'm gonna start there, like how the whole thing started. I mean, and if you guys feel bored or have any questions, in either case, just feel free to interrupt me. So the whole thing started around, like, this is in year 2000. I was a freelancer in India, and I ended up misspelling an email, and it reached this guy Danny in US. I was trying to reach another client, and he was like, "I don't know who the hell you're looking for, but I'll pay you $20 for an hour if you can do this work for me." And I was like, "Wow, okay, super." So I started working with this guy. Before that, I was a hacker, and I had just gone legit, and I was doing all this freelancing work. And I started working with Danny. Eventually, I ended up in US in 2003, and uh, although, like, it's kind of like an Indian dream to end up in US. For me, it wasn't a very pleasant change. I had my independence here in India, and in US I was now in a job, and like within few months of doing that job, I was like, I don't want to do this the whole time. I started selling this software on the side, and yeah, I ended up starting a company which automated the digital delivery of the software. Long story short, by 2010, I had achieved all my material goals, which wasn't like they were not like too huge to begin with. It was just like I want to be able to walk into a restaurant, order what I want without having to look at the prices at the menu, and I wanted to just pay for my rent and my car without having to sell 8 hours of without having to sell 8 hours every day. So those were my material goals, and I realized those by 2010. And I thought I would be happy because I had all the boxes checked. I had already married my girlfriend. I was living in a historic, nice neighborhood in US. I didn't have to work. I could travel anywhere I want, buy whatever I wanted, and yet I wasn't happy. So that's when I kind of started my real education. I started hanging out in the public library. I started reading about philosophy, psychology. I read about Buddha. I read about everything that they never taught us in school. And it was at that point I realized that I had encountered what's called hedonic adaptation. Like everything we have, we adapt to it. Like like I if I want to buy a Mercedes, I can buy a Mercedes. It's like first day I'll be like, wow, I'll be very happy. 6 months down the line I'll be like a little less happy, and after a few years it's like it's just a car. It gets me to point from point A to B. So I had adapted to my lifestyle. So I was like, okay, so that's when a realization hit me that this template of life that's been handed down to us generation after generation, like study, make money, get married, etc., etc., and it's going to make you happy. It's stupid. It doesn't work. It's broken. A lot of people stay stuck in that cycle because they never reach the end. I fortunately and luckily, I fortunately had reached the end where I had achieved my goals, and I was like, now what? Because now I could, instead of like, you know, I, like I could go for a bigger aim instead of like, setting up $1 million company. I could be like, I want to make $1 billion company. And I was like, even if I do that, either I'll be stuck in a cycle, which is stupid, or I'll get there and then I'll adapt to that. And then what? So this is really weird. This doesn't make sense. Also, by that point, I was a conscious consumer. So I was already vegan. I didn't eat meat. I didn't consume milk. I didn't eat eggs. I bought used clothes because I was like, I was aware of our footprint. And so I was like, and so if I run in this cycle of making money, spending money just to achieve happiness, which I'm not achieving anyway, I'll be causing all this suffering as well. So this really, this really hit me hard. I was like, I don't know how to live. I got a little suicidal. This wasn't out of depression. It was just like that even if I reduce my consumption, forget everything. I can just like, I live on bare minimum. To live, I have to consume. If I consume anything, even if it's vegan stuff, it has to be produced somewhere. It has to be transported. Every act of consumption, especially in this like, industrial ecosystem, every act of production causes someone to suffer somewhere, even if we don't see it. For example, to grow rice, we have to first cut down a jungle. That's how we end up with a farm. Then we have to flood the farm. We end up killing a lot of mice, snakes, like all the animals that burrow. Then we have to do plow. We have to plow it. This would be so much easier if I was allowed to talk in Hindi. Uh, so we have to plow, and then that like kills a lot of snails, a lot of earthworms. So there's suffering at every step, and this is just to produce rice, and then to transport that rice from point A to point B. That requires trucks, that requires roads. So that means that requires petroleum, that requires mining, huge amount of suffering that we just don't think about. So anyway, here I was struggling with suffering. I thought, I should just kill myself, exit this system. But that seemed very final. And I was like, all these white people, they go to India to find themselves. I'm from India. I should also go to India and try to find myself. So came to India, uh, and tried various things. I got this romantic idea of like like maybe I should live off the land, buy a farm, and then realize, well, that's really hard work, and it's not like not everybody's cut out to do that. Became like became a hippie, and then I was like, we are talking about peace, love, compassion all day, smoking interesting herbs, and like what exactly are we achieving? Then I was like, you know what, I should travel. Bought a jeep, started traveling. I was halfway to Ladakh, to Leh, and I realized, what the hell am I doing? I'm like, still polluting this pristine environment with diesel fumes. I'm just replacing one form of consumption with another, because we see travel as this innocuous thing. Oh yeah, travel, broaden our horizons. Well, that has a footprint as well. And I was like, okay, this was like, 18 months I'd spent in India getting nowhere. So my condition was like of a guy who has demolished his old house because he knows that's not working out for him, but doesn't know what's the blueprint of the new house. That's when I remembered, like, when I was a kid, my dad was working in Oroville, and he told me about, like, there's this interesting township. A lot of people internationally live there. There's this experiment. I mean, I was a kid back then when he explained me all that, so I didn't really understand it. I was like, okay, this Oroville place sounds interesting. I'm gonna go check it out. So I went to Oroville. This was August of 2012, and there I met Lorraine. Lorraine was this really old lady, not really old. She was like, 60 something, but because of her poor health, she looked really old. She had no money. She was taking care of 40 to 60 stray dogs, and she had no help. She would go to restaurants, collect leftovers, and feed these dogs. And I was like, when I met Lorraine, I felt a little ashamed. I was like, I have everything and I'm still looking for my happiness. She has nothing and she is still giving. So now I'm gonna, kind of take a go on a tangent. My mom's from a freedom fighter family. So when we were growing up, she would tell me to not listen to my dad, not think about making money, not think about becoming an engineer, but doing something good. She talked a lot about Buddha. She talked a lot about Guru Nanak, Vivekanand, and she was like, these are the guys whose footsteps you should follow. And that sounded really boring, especially because my friends were super stinking rich, and they had cars, and they had they would do whatever they want to do. So my mom's advice sounded really boring. Now when I met Lorraine, that kind of uh, you know watered the seed of values that my mom had planted inside me. And I was like, okay, I'm going to try uh, this this way of living. Because दिपेश यार, मैं हिंदी में बोलता, बट मुझे बताया गया है कि इंग्लिश में बोलना है। शायद बड़ी सारी जो ऑडियंस है उन्हें इंग्लिश नहीं आती।
Yeah, so we have audience from South India and from outside of India also. So that's why we kept this, English. Yeah.
So yeah, so sorry, just a second. Let me get back on my thought train. Yeah. So when I met Lorenzo, that completed the circle, that reconnected me to the values my mom had given me in childhood, which I found boring back then. And it also gave me, I was like, I don't have to kill myself. If I kill myself, I'm just exiting the system. The system of suffering will continue as it is. But if I stay within it, I repurpose my life and try to reduce as much suffering as I can, or that's a better value proposition. And I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to help Lorraine. So I went back to US, tried to wrap up my life. I didn't really wrap it up. I tried in Feb of 2013. I was back in Orwell helping Lorraine. Now, while helping Lorraine, something became very evident. I was like, like I have very finite time. The suffering is infinite. I need to maximize my time. There needs to be, I need to derive the maximum utility I can from it. Helping 40 to 60 stray dogs, really good, but that can't be it. There has to be more has to be done. So I was like, maybe we should sterilize dogs. The fewer puppies that are born, the fewer would suffer. And I was having a really hard time working in Oroville. I'm more of a Hindi speaking guy, and I like doing things at war footing. And that's really hard when you don't speak the language. So I was like, I'm going to do this in Delhi where I know people, I have resources, everybody speaks Hindi. And so that's where I went back to Delhi, started a sterilization program there. Now that was running swimmingly, it was running beautifully. But every time we would go pick a dog, I would see like a gazillion meat shops. So I would see like all these goats hanging, all these chickens being butchered roadside. And I was like, yeah, we can be helping We are helping these dogs one at a time, and like there's like thousands of animals being butchered in that duration. So to bring lasting change, we have to shift how people think. Now, when I say how to shift how people think, it doesn't mean we have to change their values. We have to reconnect them to their values, just the way Lorraine connected me to my values. Because as children, we realize that animals also feel pain. But as we are growing up, because of the pace of life, because of conveniences, because of peer pressure, we move away from those values. We do a lot of things that cause suffering. Whereas if I ask you, hey, are you a good person? You'll say, yeah, I'm a good person. Do you want to cause suffering? No, I don't want to cause suffering. Well, there's a lot of stuff that you're doing that does cause suffering. So just wanted to nudge people and remind, like, hey, there's a gap between your actions and your values. Not like I'm trying to put my values in your head. So what's the best way to do that? I mean, storytelling. Storytelling is the best way. I mean, it's, like every everything that we know about our culture, about our values, comes from stories. So it's like we're gonna start a place where we're not going only gonna rescue animals, but also tell their stories. That's when the idea of People Farm came about. And in December 2014, we started construction of People Farm in Himachal, in near Dharamshala. And I can go into like why we call it People Farm if you're interested. I can go into why we picked this location. Let me know in chat if you're interested. But that's when we started People Farm. And since then, now it's been what, 8 years, almost 8 years. We've rescued thousands of animals, and we have told hundreds of stories, and which has reached millions of people. And we don't care about views or shares. Uh, we do care about getting a response from people. Like people say, sir, we've seen your story. I started wearing used clothes. I stopped buying new clothes. Or instead of getting a breed dog, I've adopted a desi dog. I stopped eating meat. I got an email from Afghanistan. The guy celebrated vegetarian Eid. We start, we've gone vegan or veganish. So yeah, that's where I'm at. And while doing People Farm, at one point I realized, hey, I finally am happy. So when I stopped chasing happiness, when I stopped thinking happiness, I changed my pursuit from pursuit of happiness to pursuit of purpose. Somewhere, this existential void that I had got filled without me even realizing it. And yeah, happiness happened. That's my piece, Selva. You
Yeah,
got any
thank
question?
you. So yeah, I think Rishi is asking, would love to hear another story of how the name People Farm, if time permits. So can I share?
So, you know, there are five reasons. One is like if you see a people tree, one is like, nobody plants a people tree. It just, comes up on its own. So that's why, like, nobody told us in society, ki, bhai, you do this, you do that. It was our idea. Second is, if you see a people tree growing on side of a building, what happens is the roots of the tree causes cracks in the buildings, and that cracks opens up space for new growth. So we also wanted to like fracture existing thought processes in society, like existing like break the status quo and make space for new ideas. Then we, while doing this work, I realized we cannot scale like McDonald's. We cannot grow huge. So just like a tree, we can grow huge, but it will still have a limit. But just like a tree, the fruit can be picked by other people, other birds, and the fruit will be dropped somewhere else, and there would be another people tree. So we wanted to inspire, not only just make people aware, but also involve and inspire. Then Gautam Buddha got his enlightenment under a people tree. And fifth, Lord Krishna said in Gita that in trees I am the people tree. So those are the five reasons.
Thanks for that. And the questions would be like, there are some more than 6 7 questions. So the first question from our side, at least from my side, I would say, is that what is the biggest crisis that you see in the world right now? Because you are working in different types of crisis. I think you're handling as a team, as a community. So what is that you see in your perspective is the huge crisis right now?
I'd say, loss of hope. A lot of people have just lost hope. People have lost agency. They don't think they can do anything that will bring change, and there is this despair, especially in youth, which is very unfortunate because I mean, that's where we pin all our hopes, and the youth thinks, kuch, like, whatever, we cannot change anything. So that's the biggest crisis. And the way I see it is like, I agree, we cannot change a whole lot. Like, I cannot change a corrupt political system, I cannot change a corrupt administration, but there's always something you can do. So pick a battle that is aligned with your circumstances and your skill set, and something that excites you. And there's always a battle that you can pick and you can win in your corner of the world.
So the next question would be like, what is exactly that you would say that best differentiation between the carbon footprint and suffering footprint?
I think carbon footprint is very I don't know. Sorry, I'll rephrase. I think carbon footprint is a narrow thing. We are just looking at carbon emissions, warming of the earth, and it's mostly we are looking at it from a very human centric viewpoint. Suffering footprint is realizing that the planet is just not inhabited by us. We are not the only ones who feel pain. Every living, breathing organism feels pain, and we should, and it's not possible to live a life where we won't cause pain. So once we are mindful of the suffering we cause, we do two things. One is we do what is essential for our survival. So it's not like I would stop eating rice because I know growing rice causes pain, but I'll only eat the bowl of rice that I need to survive, and not something I need for dessert. Or I would not eat meat because it causes more suffering, way more suffering than growing rice. So it changes your choices. And second is this realization, a lot, like almost everybody thinks that my time is my time, but that's not true. To live, you need calories. Calories come from food to be produced causes suffering. So your time is not yours only, and you almost owe it to others to spend this time mindfully, and utilize it to reduce suffering, and not spend it in actions which increase suffering.
And you've shared what how People Farm has started, and what is the intention of it. But since I've seen it, I would like to know more, and from your view, if you can share more about what happens more than just rescuing animals in the farm. Like, if you say People Farm, then what else happens in the farm?
So see, rescues in one part, and then the another huge part is media. We cover all the rescues, and we tell the stories of animals who are passing through. We tell the stories of humans who are passing through sometimes. We then, when we had started People Farm, we are near this tourist area called McLeodganj. So we would go there. We would be handing out flyers like, here's what we do. We help animals. A lot of people will take flyers, chuck them. We'll go to shops, say, Bhaiya, can you put this flyer up? And they would say, yeah, but they won't put it up. And that's when we thought, we should sell products, and that way shopkeepers would like to carry our products, because our incentives will be aligned with theirs. They want to make money. We want to get our name out, and a lot of people will hear about us through those products. And people who buy our product, they will read our messaging, because on our every product carries a message about what People Farm does, etc. So instead of standing there wasting our time, wasting our money, we started products to get our name out there, and we started making money for what marketed People Farm. So Shivani, one of the other co-founders, her passion was more aligned with women always. So she saw this as an opportunity to start like a social enterprise where she employs all women, local women from the village, and she empowers them through employment. So not like, it's not like a broad. I won't use the empowerment in its broad way, but through employment she empowers them. So that's what happens at People Farm. We make peanut butter, we brew kombucha, We make handmade products from pine needles. All of that's made and sold all over India. I mean, we were selling it just locally, but when COVID hit, we started other avenues. Good thing. So we started selling online, and now we sell all over India. Other than that, we have a small farm, which we don't use it for commercial production, but that's to produce some of the food for ourselves. That way, we get to lower our suffering footprint.
In all of these activities that you're doing, how do you see localization and growing your own food helps us to suffer or helps us to reduce the suffering footprint?
No, okay. Can you repeat that? How does it help? Huh?
How does that helps in reducing our suffering footprint, like localization and supporting the farmers who are nearby and all these activities? Because as you say, like I've seen the farm in People Farm, like where you grow no-tilling farming. So what's your experience and view on that, like consuming the local food?
See, the less transportation that is required to get you stuff, the less suffering, the less suffering it needs. Then also, when you are eating seasonally, that's less suffering. So it's just like minimizing resource consumption. And when you consume locally, you minimize the resource consumption. That's how it helps. I mean, of course, there are other benefits when you consume local. When you consume, say, if you're consuming locally, you're gonna buy seasonal stuff that anyway keeps you healthier. So in long term, you're gonna require less medical care. So in that term too, in those terms too, it reduces suffering footprint. It's not that apparent though.
So there is one more interesting question someone have asked. So she's curious to know what is your inspiration, or what are the books or people's writings that you read or follow?
Yeah, I won't say I follow any specific writing. Gautam Buddha's life story. I won't say Buddhism. I don't know much about Buddhism, but Gautam Buddha's life story has inspired me. He was born this really rich guy, and he realized, yeah, there ain't nothing in a lot of money. So he just taken. Haan, Didi, thank you. And he realized that money doesn't help you, and he tried a lot. He went to this ascetic mode where he left everything. He almost went to dying. So he, from one extreme, he went to the other, and then he realized that, what, life's too precious to be just wasted away, like, like killing yourself. And it's wasteful living like a king. And it's somewhere in the middle where we take enough to survive but then use our life to do good. So that's been my inspiration. A book that has heavily influenced me, it's like a modern day Gita, I can say, is Fight Club. Gita is a book, again, that has heavily inspired me. I haven't read Gita. I have read Gita for busy people. So Karm Yoga has heavily inspired me. Like, spend your life doing good work. That has really helped me, even personally. See, because our lives, no matter how much resources you have, our lives are full of suffering. Even if you forget existential suffering, there's always something going on. There's always a problem with your neighbors, with your employees. You want to go park your car somewhere, there's always going to be a problem. But and there's existential suffering. When you find purpose, when your suffering finds purpose, then it's then it's not suffering anymore. And that I learned from Karm Yoga. So in terms of books, like I said, Gautam Buddha's life story. Then I liked Fight Club. uh, Another book recently that I read is about stoicism that I liked. It's called Guide to a Good Life. That's one I like. If you need specific names, you can go to peoplefarm.org/Robin, and there's a link there which has a lot of books that I've read.
That's interesting. And there is someone else who is asking, my question is, what was the biggest challenge for Robin in his journey of creating People Farm? It could be raising funds or building his team or anything else.
See, those things were challenging in on themselves. Yeah, definitely. Uh, Funds wise, I lucked out because I just exited my tech company. So I had the expenses I needed for the capital expense for buying land and for construction. Building the team happened very organically. The biggest challenge was not an external thing but an internal thing. When we think about sustainability and living consciously, it, it's very hard to emotionally wean you off the pleasures and the comforts and the conveniences that you are addicted to. So that was the hardest part. I cried myself to sleep a lot many times that what the hell am I doing to my life. So because I was like addicted to pleasures, it's an addiction we don't realize that we even have. So weaning myself off that addiction was the biggest challenge. Sorry, I'm like repeating some of my things I've said. Like, it's end of the day, I'm really tired. So
Yeah, that's fine. So So, being a very maybe being very successful in your career, like working in states and like coming back to India, how was it for you to deal with your family and parents, or maybe your relationship with your friends and other networks? Because like once you wanted to live a life like this, what was the shift with your primary and secondary circle, like family and friends?
see, with my dad, he was okay with me coming back to India, and he passed away actually in a couple months after I came back. He passed away, but he was okay with the shift because like he was always worried. He was an engineer, so he wanted me to become an engineer. So I didn't become an engineer, but I got to states. I started a company. I exited a company. So he was happy that okay, like that. इन्हें मतलब मैंने नाम नहीं डुबो दिया ना उनका. So he was okay. And my mom was like, finally he's come to his senses. So my mom was okay with that. She wasn't okay with me leaving her side. Like a lot of Indian moms are like that. They want their son around always. Uh, my friends, like, of course, friends and distant family had an opinion that what I am doing is crazy, but nobody really voiced it. I have always been a bit of a rebel and been very direct. So, like a lot of people thought I was crazy. Nobody said it to my face. It was only once People Farm started and People Farm achieved a certain level of success. Then that's when my friends and distant relatives, they were like, "Yeah, we thought you were doing something stupid. We never said it, but yeah, you were right. Now it makes sense." Does that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah. Um, Another interesting question is like, yeah. So my question for Robin is, me and my wife mutually decided not to have child, but relatives and society have been taunting and forcing us to have at least one kid. What and how should we reply them?
I
I
mean, do
think
you need
it's,
to reply to them? I mean, just don't care. I mean, because the thing is, most people are so irrational. You can try to give them a reasonable answer, and they would just stick with what they believe. I mean, if they are reasonable, you can tell them your reasons, like, hey, we recycle beer bottles. Why would we bring in a new kid when there are millions of kids in orphanages that we can just bring and help? If they don't get that, there's no point explaining, and you don't have to explain yourself to anyone. Why?
I think Dipesh is asking if you can reply this question alone in Hindi because he's also having the same condition.
दिपेश, मैं तो यही कहूंगा कि यार देखो, अगर आपको लगता है कि जो भी आपकी बात पे ये सवाल उठा रहा है, आपके डिसीजन पे सवाल उठा रहा है, उनको उनको या तो आप अगर वो समझदार है तो आप बता सकते हैं कि भाई देखो, जब इतने बच्चे अनाथ आश्रमों में हैं जो बुरे हाल में हैं, जिनके साथ आगे चल के बहुत बहुत कुछ गलत होता है, जब मैं वही प्यार, वही समय खर्च करके उस एक बच्चे की जिंदगी बचा सकता हूँ, तो मैं एक नया बच्चा क्यों लाऊं? और मैं एक नया बच्चा लाऊंगा, मुझे तो वैसे ही लगता है इस दुनिया में आना सजा है। चाहे अमीर से अमीर आदमी हो, उसके लिए भी यहाँ पे आना सजा है। हम कहते हैं हम अपने बच्चों को प्यार करते हैं, हम इस दुनिया में लाके उनके साथ सबसे बड़ा गलत करते हैं। तो एक तो ये है, अगर वो रीजनेबल होगा तो शायद समझ जाएगा। मोस्ट लोग रीजनेबल होते नहीं है और वो अपनी बात पे अड़े रहते हैं। तो मैं कहूंगा भी कहो, सुनो सबकी, करो अपनी। और मेरी माँ भी यही कहती थी कि भाई सबसे बड़ा रोग क्या कहेंगे लोग, अगर आप किसी के घर से खा नहीं रहे, आपको उनको जवाब देने की जरूरत ही नहीं है, आपकी जिंदगी आप जिए।
Deepesh must be happy now. So I think there is one more question, but you have already kind of we spoke about this. But I anyway I'll read out the question, and if you feel still more adding more to that, you can add. So somebody is asking that I understand physical pain is the nature of any being on the earth. Is it even possible to live a human life where we don't cause pain at all
No,
inadvertently?
absolutely no. It's not possible. You can be, living naked on top of a tree and you'll still end up causing pain. That's why, I mean, it's not binary. A lot of people think, if you're going to cause a little bit of suffering, they take it as a license, in for a penny, in for a pound, then we might as well go the whole way. Then we are eating meat, then we are eating fish, then we are doing every goddamn thing. But it's about making choices which reduces unnecessary suffering.
So
And also, it's like a lot of people say, okay, you're driving things, like you have this rescue jeep that drives on diesel, that's causing suffering. Yes, it is causing suffering, but people are consuming diesel anyway. This way we are repurposing the consumption of that bit of diesel to reduce suffering. So when you take the tools of the master to go against the master, that's perfectly fine. Like, we sell products and people say, okay, you are also increasing consumption. I say, no, we're not increasing consumption. We're not telling people, oh, you should buy peanut butter. We are saying people are going to buy peanut butter anyway. They're going to buy it from a multi-million dollar company which doesn't give a damn about environment or people. Hey, if you're going to buy peanut butter, either make it yourself, which is the best. If you don't have time to make it from yourself, buy it from us. That way, that bad action of a plastic jar and of a machine used at least has a good purpose behind it. We use 100% of the profits for animal rescue. Does that make sense? So we cannot, the ideal is not achievable. We go for bad instead of worse.
So Aditya wants to ask something. Aditya, if you can hear me, you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Good evening, sir.
Hey, good evening, Aditya.
Sir, I have stopped consuming milk products after returning from Peepal Farm because I don't want to hurt any animal in my coming future from now.
Hey,
I have
that's super, Aditya.
I like desserts and paneer very much, although, but I don't want to hurt any animal from now, from returning from Peepal Farm, because it's an amazing experience in People Farm, spending time with you and learned a lot of things from you and Shivani ma'am.
Oh, thanks, Aditya. That's really sweet. By the way, everybody who doesn't know about Aditya was a volunteer here. He came with his mom. They came all the way from Gujarat. Aditya, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, they came all the way from Gujarat, and he wants to, when he grows up, he wants to become a vet and help animals.
Thank you, sir.
I think with that note, I also would like to add something with my experience, because like I remember, Robin, like when I was in People Farm, we used to have conversations about, because I was very much skeptical about the plastic usage at that time, even till now. But I remember we had a conversation that I was asking the same, like, hey, how can we go like saying that it is not like causing any suffering footprint when we still use the plastic? So we had a very heated up conversation by then. But when I reflected after 3 4 years, like now I can see, okay, even what I'm doing right now, the work, which is very much convincing, the explanation that you gave at that time, like the repurposing of what we are consuming is way more important than uh, consuming it without consciousness. So yeah, that's just another note that popped out after hearing Aditya sharing. And I think Jayalakshmi has asked something very long. She's asking how is that we choose a middle path in reducing the suffering footprint as we evolve. The suffering footprint apparently looks like shifting from one side to another. How do we gracefully choose our actions?
I'm not sure I fully understand the question, so I'm gonna try to understand. I'm gonna try to answer it based on my understanding of it. And please correct me if I'm wrong, Jayalakshmi. Look, it's the same thing. We uh, like every action has a suffering footprint. So you just gotta, like, and when you in your life you're making choices every day without, sometimes you're conscious of the choices, sometimes you're not. But it's about being mindful which action reduces suffering and which action produces suffering, or which action has less suffering, which has more, and then picking the one which has less. So suffering footprint kind of becomes this parameter of living our life. For example, when I wasn't thinking about suffering, I was thinking of money. All of my actions were decided based on which action is going to make me more money, which action is going to make me less money, and given a choice, I'll choose this. That was the parameter of becoming rich. So now, if I suffering footprint is the parameter of becoming good. Jayalakshmi, does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you so much for answering this, Robin. Yeah. Um, so I was thinking that, like, say today, for example, I understand that this thing which I'm going to do is going to add up more suffering. So I'm able to understand that. So when I make some choice consciously, it does drive me to actions wherein I'm able to reduce the food suffering to someone else. Yes, but what happens is, as we evolve through this cycle, the next time we see that there is another choice that I have to make, which is sometimes exactly opposite to the first choice I made. I understand it's a process of evolving, but then how does this work?
So when you have to make that second choice, is that decision, like, so you understand it's going to cause more suffering, but you like emotionally overpowered to make it? Is that what you're talking about?
uh, no, like, the first time when I make the decision, I'm also like very convinced that this is going to reduce the suffering. The second time also, it is the same instinct that I have, but the wisdom that has been gained in the process apparently looks a little different.
Well, of course, then you make the decision based on your current understanding of things. Like, for example, if today I'm choosing to eat A instead of B, like, for example, I'm eating wheat instead of rice because I think, wheat requires less suffering to grow. It is just an example, right? I'm not saying it does. And then, we evolve, our understanding evolves. 6 months down the line, I realize, hey, I've been wrong all along. Rice so grows very naturally, causes very less suffering. Then I'm going to make the decision. Then I'm going to change my decision.
Yeah, get it now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's, of course, you got to change the. See, we gain more and more knowledge as we grow, and it's about making the correct. Yeah, it's about making decision based on the most updated information and knowledge that we have. For example, yeah, I think I gave an example already, so yeah.
Yeah. So, Robin, one question that I would ask personally from my side is, um, so in my travel and understanding in the last few years, like I'm getting more close to this community-based social enterprises and developing them and seeing them in a different perspective. So, what is your view or your saying that, because you wonderfully explained that art of storytelling when it comes to spread your message. So, is there anything that you would like to share uh, on holding your values and running a social enterprise in that perspective?
Yeah, as much as I wanted this place to be more of a community, maybe it's probably my failure. The place is, I think, like I'm going to talk about very practical challenges I faced when it comes to making community. Because you need people who are very driven about this cause. Then they also have to have overcome jealousy, because they shouldn't see like, yeah, this person has this much, that person has that much, or this person's getting all the name. So they have to be slightly above those human issues, and they have to have the skill set which you need for the job they need to perform. And I have found it a very rare combination, and that's why this place is just it's been hard to make it into a community. You know what I mean? So it's more of a social company than community. It's more of a social company of people who are independent and they form their groups, but it's not a cohesive community. So I can't speak to this community aspect.
But you're saying that you've tried it and
I've tried it, but I have failed miserably at it. It's just like, because it's like this human factor messes everything up. Like people always get in these relationships, and then they prefer one person or the other. There's always this. It's messy. So I like, when it comes to this, see, my life is all about doing good work, and I think I have found the capitalism approach better at that than a community approach, because I haven't found people who are driven, drama free, and capable. Because you can't come into this with just good intentions. We got to make a good film. I need a guy who is a great cinematographer. I need a guy who can edit it. You know what I mean? So where am I gonna get a guy who's a cinematographer, who's okay with community living, who's not like, uh, who's not thinking about, oh man, other cinematographers are making lakhs of rupees. I haven't found those people.
I think Rishi he wants to ask some question.
Sorry, I mean, I know this might seem like a very jaded response, but I'm telling you, uh, like, we are down in the trenches. I'm down in the trenches. I'm telling you the ground reality. It's just like hard to find those people.
Yeah, hi Robin, Rishi here. In the first place, thank you so much for the answer, for just sharing the story about how the name People Farm came up, different perspectives. So usually when you ask someone for a name, that there's just one idea. So how there was just three different perspectives to it.
Five.
And and just adding to, there's a question that I had was, there are a lot of young people, like, when I talk to a few of my friends and when I meet people, so a lot of people want to come out of the system, and they want to go to they have a lot of ideas, they have a lot of interest in opening up places like this, or get and join hands with places like this. But somehow, even I feel the same, that we don't have the skills that such places have. Like, we've been taught just to make money. We know how to market, like, we know how to do business, but we don't know permaculture. We don't know how to take care of an animal. I'm just saying as an example, just not just specific to People Farm, but how does one start, or what kind of skill set one has to prepare, or how do we approach, or like, how can one really relate or probably join hands with such institutions, just such communities?
See, I didn't mean to say people don't have the skills
No, I
that
don't mean
we.
to say that you said so, but I'm saying that I like people here back in the society, we feel that we don't have the skills, because back in such places, like, if you take People Farm, you take Hill Farm, there are different farms, where they're doing permaculture. There's so much of sustainable ways of living, but we don't know how to do this eco construction. We don't know how permaculture works. We don't know, like, animal care. So How do you start?
Now
Like,
you're
how does
looking at a
one?
very narrow slice of what a place like that does. I don't know how most of the places do what do they do. Like
Mhm.
what we do is like, we have almost 50 people in our staff, right? That's a lot of admin work. There's a lot of accounting work. There's a lot of we sell products. There's a lot of marketing. There's sales. There's packaging. There's quality check. So these are skills that people do have because, like I said, we are not we are not a charity. We are a not-for-profit company.
Right.
So the skills, like even in a lot of places you see, you go to, even in Auroville, you'll see, go to a lot of farms. Yeah, people come, people volunteer, but people who are really doing the construction, people who are really doing the farm work are people not people like you and me who grew up in cities. We are too soft.
Mm-hmm.
Majority of us are, at least. Most people are from the village who are working there. So you need people with other skills. Yeah, you need people with communication skills. For example, like I need somebody who can give a tour in English and Hindi to somebody who walks into the farm. So
Right.
your existing skills can be used to achieve the purpose of a place like ours. You don't have to have a special set of skills to join.
Okay. Fine. Yeah. I think I'm going to list down. Just sit and list down kind of skills that I have. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Exactly. Like a lot of people reach out to us and they say, "Hey, we want to join you." The first question I ask is, "What can you do?" And then we have to see how it fits with us. Like, we have so many people, like, like all our rescue people who work with animals are people whom we have hired, whom we have been able to hire from the village and train them. People who work on the farm are people whom we have hired from the village and train them in, like, yeah, we want a no-till farm. This is how you are gonna do it. Those are
Mm-hmm.
not the people whom we have a difficult time finding. It's like people with computer skills, communication skills, admin skills, accounting skills. Those are the people we have a tough time finding.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
So again, I have a kind of different question, Robin. So you said, like, as we are talking, like, we are talking about finding right people, or like finding people with a set of skill set. And you said, like, you've tried it and kind of failed it maybe. So do you see any other model that you get inspired, like, from other community work? Uh,
See, no, I haven't failed at hiring people. I said
mm,
I have failed at building a community.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hiring people is easy. Hiring people is easy. You say, like, this is the skill set I need. I'm willing to pay this much money, and you're gonna live in Himachal. You get people.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love capitalism.
Yeah, so that's what I wanted to ask, like, that thing that you've said, like, you kind of maybe fail because of to make a community. So my question is the same, like, do you see any other community anywhere in India or somewhere else that they've kind of successfully, that you would say that that is successfully they've made a community, or they're doing it right with?
Uh, Not that I know of, but I then don't know of that many communities. So yeah, I don't think I know of any.
Yeah. Okay.
I I think Sadhana Forest is one, but I think it's a shifting community. People keep going, coming and going,
Mm.
and they do reforestation, right?
Yes.
So I mean, so that's a very different mission than ours.
Yeah. So, what is the difficulty that you would say, maybe be it a farm or like running that social enterprise with the products, that you find with the local people over here? Because, like, when you shifted, like, were they like welcoming you, or even till date, like, how's your experience with the local community in that locality?
Yeah, initially, though, it was like everybody was very suspicious. Like, who are these people? They're from outside. What are they doing? Then also you tell them, like, everybody thinks it's like government se paisa aata hoga, America se funding aati hogi. So they have these notions because it's usually people are trying to make money. Nobody's spending money to do good. But now that we have created so much employment in the village, we are open for visits every day. Anybody can just walk in from 9:30 to 12:30. We have so many videos of the place going out, like we give a weekly update. So now it's only like a few bitter people who don't like us, like handful. But most people really like us, especially the kids in the village really like us. So it has definitely shifted. But there's always a few haters.
So I think it's almost 7:05, and we kind of towards going towards the end of the call. So if somebody wants to ask, maybe they can put it in the chat, or they can unmute themselves, and you can ask directly to Robin.
Cool. Okay. No
Yeah.
questions. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So if there is no question, then I would like to end this call with you saying, like, what could be the best way to contribute, maybe in People Farm, or what is your because in so many videos and in some conversations you have said that what could people do from wherever they are, like what could be those things that they can do to reduce their suffering footprint or to contribute in this larger consciousness.
See, everybody has different circumstances, right? So you have to just, if people can just start being mindful of their actions, they will find a way on like how to reduce their consumption. The best way to reduce your suffering footprint is cut out the items that you don't really need to consume, and you're just consuming them out of habit or desire. I always tell people, like, so stop or reduce something bad that you do. And it doesn't have to be consumption. It could be something like anger. Like I try to reduce my anger. So stop or reduce something bad that you're doing. Start doing something good. It could be volunteering with a place. It could be keeping like a water bowl out in your balcony for birds. It could be putting a doormat out in front of your house where a dog can sleep in winters. Something small would work. Whatever you do, tell your friends about it, because everybody talks about like, oh, I bought this BMW, or I went to Mauritius for a stupid vacation. Everybody talks about that. But when it comes to doing good, people think if you talk about it, it's bragging. No, you stop doing something bad, you tell somebody. You start doing something good, tell somebody. And that's how we will have a horizontal spread of these ideas.
Thank you, Robin, for that. And I think Geeta is having one question. And Geeta, if you are unmuted, so if you want to ask directly.
Hello.
Hey, Geeta.
Hello. Hi. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, sorry. Actually, I want to know. See, I have been to Sadhana Forest, but that was not planned actually. I went to Auroville and actually after a little bit of challenges, I had to go to Sadhana Forest just for 2 days. But then we found that we were able to stay there with me and children. Like actually I really thought that place will be too hard for us to stay and all, but then we started liking it. But we couldn't feel we liked it because there were mosquitoes and all the stuff, and food and all, it took us time to get adjust. But then the people around there is as you said, there is you cannot find that that vibes sometimes in people all the time. The person who helped us get into the sadhana forest, only somehow they didn't actually um, no actually he was there. We, on a certain circumstance, we had to go there. That person we knew because of the circumstance only, so he kind of that point in time he was also a little bit obliged to help us. But then the experiences there, I don't find similar people there who really want, who can let go of jealousy, that community spirit. Nothing was there. Then I thought maybe it's my vibe, maybe I am feeling bad. But then whenever I feel that way, I go near and stand near the Matri Mandir for some time. Then that positivity will be there, kind of. That is my assumption. Then I feel better, a little better. Now we are, after coming to city, and our town also, after we came from Sadhana Forest, we try to do as much as we can in the location where we are in. But yeah, people do look at you and it kind of little, you're out of space or something. but finding the similar kind of people is difficult. And in the place, practicing it in the place where you are already, there also we are finding challenges. Wherever we are, from there to practice it, that there comes some challenges. And yeah, there is some need that God has put us, in this kind of situation, that we think about all this, because otherwise it's very rare, no, it's like earlier in a childhood I had similar thoughts, but as life progress we got into, it's like I'm taken to the point one again. Somewhere destiny is taking me to the point one again, where my thought process were. Then I feel like I'm feeling more like I'm in home. That when these thought processes come, I feel like more at home. Sustainability thought processes. But when gelling with people, that it doesn't happen. Even you go to Auroville, go to Matri Mandir, it is very, very difficult to find people in similar vibes. One lady I spoke to was I was very happy, but then also there were clashes. She started asking like, how are you owning this car and all that. I really couldn't explain much actually at that time. There was some other reason. See, I am of that age. I'm middle age crossed. She didn't understand. She will not understand. She's just started. But then I felt like her vibes were much better because she was traveling through different places. She has come from Philippines. I respect her much. Then I told her that verbally. That's what finding similar people becomes difficult when you practice sustainability, and when you're trying to do it from the city on your own, there also we are finding difficulties. These are the
Yeah,
two things.
yeah. I think I understand. Well, I do hope you find your way wherever you are. Okay. On that note, I'm gonna exit.
So
Okay,
thank you,
Silva.
Robin,
Thanks
and
for
thank you
having
for
me here.
joining it today, because I know how busy the farm used to be, even though if it is weekend. So I'm really, really glad and thank you that you are here with us today to spend this one and a half hours with us. And yeah, Rishi is also thanking you for the same, that the time that you've spent with us. And yeah, really, really thank you for that, and hope to meet you soon. Yeah,
Sweet. You're welcome here anytime. Okay. Bye, Silva.
bye bye.
Bye, everyone.